Night landscape pictures are some of my favorite. I really like taking this picture, and it is very, very simple to set up your camera to take the best quality picture. It seems complicated, but I'm going to use the manual mode. So turn your mode dial to manual. M stands for manual, and this will give me full control over both the shutter and the aperture. And again, this may seem a little bit too much, but it's very, very simple. First thing you want to do is turn the flash off. If your flash is on, just press the flash button right here to access the flash mode, and wheel over to flash off and hit set. Now, my ISO, I want to keep that at 80. This is going to be a very, very long exposure, so it has to be 80 ISO to maintain the cleanest possible image. My white balance, I want to set this appropriately to the light source. Usually if it's a cityscape or something like that, I'll set it to tungsten because most street lights are very yellow. So I'll press either the function button or my shortcut button. Previously in the Getting Started guide, set up my shortcut button to quickly access the white balance. So I'll move this over to tungsten and then press set. Now I want to set my shutter speed and the aperture. Now you can see over here is a little light meter. Right now my exposure compensation is set to 0. You can see that by the little green dash, but this little red dash is where the actual image exposure is currently at. And that's because I have a very, very fast shutter speed with a very, very small aperture setting. What you want is to maintain that small aperture setting to keep everything in focus. So I'm going to leave this on f8. This will help me get everything in focus, get me the longest and the widest depth of field possible. However, 1/500 is no good. I want to change that, so I'm going to use my little wheel dial to move that. I'm going to go up to 10 seconds. I'm going to try 10 seconds, and then if this is too bright or too dark, I can see later in the LCD screen after I've taken the picture, then I can choose to reduce that or not. Currently you can see that my screen is completely white, and that is because I have much more light in here than you will out when you're taking a picture at night. So it looks very, very washed out, and you can see my meter, the little red dash is way at the top now, but in your case it should be right around the middle. And now that everything is set up, I've got my flash turned off, my white balance is set to tungsten, my shutter speed is set at 10 seconds, and my aperture is set at f8. I would like to set my manual focus. I may not be able to focus at night because it's dark. You can usually find a light post or something like that at the distance to place your focusing square over and focus, but we are using a tripod because of these extreme long exposures, so I don't want to start focusing on something and then holding the button pressed halfway and then reposition it. I just want to have it still and composed the way I'd like it and then take the picture. So I'll press MF for manual focus, and I'll just crank this all the way up to infinity. We're talking about landscapes here, so the focus should be set to infinity. And if you want, you'll notice right now my little wheel dial is changing the manual focus, but if I want to go back to change the time or change the f-stop, the aperture, what I need to do is press the metering button right here, and this will move the highlighted square over from one field to the next. So now I can change my aperture, now I can change my meter, now I can change my manual focus, and now I can change my shutter speed. So once those are set up, all I need to do is place my camera on a tripod or set it down, compose the picture the way I want it to be. I need to set up the timer mode. This is very important with long exposures. So press the timer button down here to access the timer mode, and then go down to the 2-second self-timer. The 2-second self-timer will allow me to press the shutter button and then release the camera so it can settle down a little bit before taking the picture. I want the camera to be as still as possible before that shutter is released, so there is as little camera shake as possible and the picture comes out as sharp as possible. So now everything is set up. I've got my 2-second timer, my flash is turned off, my ISO is set to 80, and my white balance is set to tungsten. My manual focus is set to infinity, and my shutter speed is set to 10 seconds. This is kind of a lot, but it's really quite simple once you get used to it. Once everything is set up, again, the camera should be on a tripod. Press the shutter button halfway, press the shutter button the rest of the way, and after 2 seconds, the picture will be taken. Now, just so you know, after 10 seconds, the picture is done because we have our shutter speed set to 10 seconds. And then it'll take a while for that image to process. Because it's such a long exposure, it takes a lot longer for the picture to process. So just be patient. Once it's done, it only takes a few seconds. Then you'll see your image, and you can tell if you need to increase or decrease the shutter speed. To find out much more about digital photography and your digital camera, go to lbguides.com.